The Utah Jazz were a bit spooky. They were a little creepy. But the Denver Nuggets flew away on the broomstick every time they needed to tonight behind Nikola Jokic for a 27-point, 10 rebound, 11 assist, triple-double, and Denver stays undefeated as the Jazz fall in the Mile High City. That's next on Postcast.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
David Locke along with Ron Boone after the Denver Nuggets defeat the Utah Jazz by the final score of 110-102. The Nuggets jumped out early. They led by 10 at the end of one. This is what they've done to everybody so far this year. It's quite impressive what they're doing to people. If you look, they're 4-0 on the year. At the end of the first quarter, they led the Lakers by 14, the Grizzlies by 7, and the Thunder by 11, and the Jazz by 10. So they have led by 42 points at the end of the first quarter in the opening 48 minutes of first quarters. You can't be more dominant than that. And then they just held the lead the rest of the way. The Jazz would work it back to like 7, and then they would just shove the Jazz away and take it back to 11. There are a lot of things to talk about the Jazz. They did some things really well. Some guys had some good nights, but let's start with Denver for a second. We opened the broadcast, if you had heard it, which no one did. Side note story about continuity, about championship, about Nikola Jokic, and those were the things that dominated this game really throughout.
Yeah, as you mentioned, that first quarter has been awfully good to them all season long, shooting over 50% from the field, and that's just the way they've been dominating. So for the most part, teams have been playing uphill. They led by 17. The Jazz got within 6, and then they just changed the personnel, a guy or two, and then all of a sudden the lead is back up to 10.
Good thing I think from the Jazz standpoint is they stayed engaged. They stayed in it. They ran their stuff. They got better as the night went on. They end up losing by 8 after trailing by 10 at the end of one. So in theory, they won the final 36 minutes. I think there are some positives that this team against the best there is in the NBA, what they can take out of this.
And Will talks about that all the time. Just continue to get better at most of the things that they're trying to do out there on the floor. You see in practice how they continue to work on certain things over and over and over and over. Just try to get to the point where it's like the Denver Nuggets, to where the offense is just efficiently working because of the system. And sooner or later, they'll get there.
The fact is, if you're going to beat Denver, I think at this point, you're going to have an unreal shooting night. Yeah. Jazz did not do so. They were 11 of 37 from 3. Lauri was 5 of 13. He got 13 threes off. Lauri's not getting to the line, by the way. Lauri only had 2 free throws again tonight. He did not take one, I think, in Phoenix. I think only had a few in the Clipper game. That's probably something we should look into. Let's start off with the one disconcerting thing, and then we'll turn to the positive. Jordan Clarkson is just super far off his game right now. 2 of 10 tonight, only with kind of an irrelevant lay-in at the end. He has 10 turnovers in the last 2 nights and 11 points. Obviously, he's frustrated. You can see it on his face. He's such a competitor that he does get frustrated. What did you see that's going on with Jordan?
Well, you can see, as you just mentioned, he's frustrated. And he's a shooter. He's used to those shots going in. He's used to those off-balance shots going in. He's used to playing at a fast pace and in other words, just getting it going. All of a sudden, he's got 10 points in a quarter or something like that. And it's not happening. We watched him last year get frustrated when it wasn't falling, but then he would bounce back and get it going. And right now he played 33 minutes tonight. And usually with that kind of time on the floor, he's done something very, very positive.
All right, let's go to the positive. One, Walker, who has been scuffling a little bit. Will Hardy spent some time in the press conference the other day talking about it. Walker talked about it. He was available tonight. I don't know if he was any better tonight in the sense that I don't think the same opportunities availed themselves in previous nights, but he took advantage of those. The Jazz were driving, bringing Jokic to the ball and lobbing over the head, and he was just dunking. But that's great. It's got to give him some confidence. And it's really, to me, it's a bigger sign. And this is probably what the case will be with Walker. When the Jazz are executing their offense right and taxing the defense getting downhill, that opens things up for Walker. When you're not taxing the defense downhill or bringing anybody the ball, then you're not going to be able to find things open for Walker.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you can read into what you want as far as his game tonight, but that's what presented him, because we expected that. Jokic is not a rim protector. He's not that quick of foot. But Tucker ended up finding him quite a bit there in that third quarter, especially fourth quarter rather. to the point at the rim. And so that's what you expect out of him, being able to score at the rim, and his confidence definitely is probably going to. He ended up with 13 rebounds as
We
well.
did see the Jazz play I think the way they want to. Their offense was fairly putrid to start. It was 80 offensive rating in the first quarter and an 88 by halftime, and we had Evan Brads on at halftime, and he said, like, we're getting pretty good looks. We're kind of getting what we want. We're just not making some shots. They were 5 of 15 from three at that point. I think we saw them have a much better offensive second half. They got some things in that second half they can build off of.
They ended up shooting 42% from the field, but they had a 56% quarter in that fourth quarter, and even in the that was the best quarter. That fourth quarter was the best quarter as far as percentage it's concerned. But as you mentioned earlier, they continue to fight, continue to stay in there, playing very, very hard. And again, got within 6. Had Michael Malone calling timeouts so he can put a different guy in or do something different. And but this is what hopefully this is what we see out of the Jazz all season long. Just continue to fight.
And Denver being on the back-to-back end of back-to-back may have contributed to this. They only shot 9 of 28 from 3, but for the first time this year, the Jazz actually had a really good defensive rating. The Jazz defensive rating tonight was a 111, which is particularly good considering the fact that Denver was a 118 during the regular season last year. They've been a 121 so far this year, and they were a 118 in the playoffs last year. So to hold Denver to 111 defensively is the first night this year we've seen the Jazz actually have a solid, good 48-minute defensive basketball game.
And watching the scheme that they wanted to put together this morning in practice, it worked a couple of times and a few times it didn't. Jokic is very, very smart. And he sees you coming. He's so good at looking over the top of the defense, finding the open man, whether they're cutting or for a three-point shot. But the scheme they put together this morning, you could just see that everyone was engaged and tried to make it happen. Late in the ball game in that fourth quarter, it did happen. I mean, they worked it very, very well. They came up with the steal and one. The next time they came up with just a missed shot, and they were off and running.
From another Jazz standpoint of things, Colin Sexton hit his first 2 threes of the year. Taylor Horton-Tucker had an 8 assist, 16 rebound game, had a good start to the game. It's been a little up and down for these guys in their roles. It seemed like Colin played a little bit more off the ball tonight and was able to just kind of attack. Taylor still playing on the ball. Better nights for those two. Both had pretty tough nights in Phoenix.
Well, you can see that Will is still searching, and sooner or later he'll have a rotation. You get the feeling that George is going to be a part of that rotation to the point where they'll knock it down to maybe a three guard rotation.
Chris Dunn only played 6 minutes tonight.
Yeah, so it's a possibility that just might happen pretty quick. And the sooner that happens, the more confidence the guy has. He knows he's going in the ball game, and it just seems to work. When guys know when they're going in.
Lauri Markkanen, 27 points, but on 24 shot attempts, 13 of those 3 and 14 rebounds for the Jazz, who trailed it by 10 at the end of one, 13 at the half. They got it down to 11, then they cut it all the way down to 5. They really pestered, stayed in this game, stayed engaged the whole way, and then Denver just made the plays. And you pointed out on the postgame show, Denver's fourth quarter offense is really what makes them so impressive.
Look, they end up shooting 70% in that fourth quarter. I mean, you're not going to lose very many basketball games shooting that type of percentage. But the Jazz ended up outscoring them in that quarter by 3, even though they shot 70% and trying to get themselves back in it. Don't be upset with. Obviously, we're not upset, but Markkanen getting 24 shots. He's got to get 20 at least.
Yeah.
In a ball game.
All right, Ron. We didn't see Phoenix at full strength, but if they have Booker and Beal,
yes.
If the Clippers are who we saw them, if they're healthy. The Warriors who beat New Orleans by 30 today. The Lakers, whatever they might be, I'm not sold, but a lot of people are. Who is the biggest challenger to the Denver Nuggets?
Until I see Phoenix full strength, I have to see a system. I mean, something that they're doing that involves everyone other than isolations, that type of thing. On paper, I think anyone challenging the Denver Nuggets is going to be the Phoenix Suns.
The only one that's interesting to me is whether the Clippers can. Denver's so much bigger than everyone. Denver's really big, right? Their smallest guy that plays is Reggie Jackson. It's like 6'4".
It's not like they're big and slow. I mean, they're big. Those two big other guys are pretty quick and recover very well defensively.
The only team I wonder that might be able to give them a hard time is the Clippers, because the Clippers are as big as they are.
Yeah.
they're monsters out there, right? So Covington, you're running out Covington, and you're running out Leonard, and you're running out George, and you're running out, this big, huge, massive, and Westbrook's got is big on Jamal Murray. You've got the 2 7-footers in the middle. Like I would have actually taken the Clippers as the team specifically to challenge the healthy Clipper team to specifically challenge Denver. I'm not sure their offense is good enough, though.
I could agree with you on that until I see Phoenix at full strength.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is Postcast tonight. Thanks very much for tuning in, David Locke, Ron Boone. I'll have Locked on Jazz for you tomorrow. Thanks very much.